All right, so I don't even know why I'm on this video kick today, but after I made those two videos that I just posted about, your enemies are determined to destroy you and being a friend of God, what really led me to make that first video this morning about your enemies being trying to destroy you, determined to destroy you, is because I read the story about Balak and Balaam. Well, came across it again. Of course, I had read it before, but prior to that, God really started speaking to me about, how the adversary got into my life and how a lot of things befell me, and I went through so many obstacles and all these things that I always talk about and make known on my channel. But this is really specifically for the women. So if you're a woman watching this, this is really, I guess, who I'm talking to. When, sometimes the Holy Spirit will just hit you and you'll start, not remembering things like the enemy bringing old things to your mind to make you feel hurt about, but really remembering things and getting revelation about it. And that's what happened to me this morning. I started thinking about the stuff that I went through and pointing out the adversary, pointing out okay, this was the person that the enemy used to let these things befall me. Of course, I made known in that last video that each and every one of us have a purpose and a destiny that God has instilled in us. But if you close the door to sin, or even if you don't, the enemy is using an adversary to come against you. Sometimes the adversary can be your own self. But in my own situation, what God was pointing out to me this morning was how the enemy was using men to play an adversary, right, in my life. And this has happened ever since I was 16 years old. Ever since I started dating people, it was happening repeatedly, and God was really giving me revelation about it. The Holy Spirit was really giving me revelation about it. I feel pointing out where the adversary came from, where I opened the door to let these things come in my life and befall me. And of course, it was lessons, so I'm not complaining about it, but I'm just bringing it up. And the reason why this was so prominent in my life is because I grew up and I always felt like I was missing love. I always felt like I was missing something. I always felt at that time, okay, my parents don't love me enough. They're not giving me attention. I felt rejected by my parents, either overtly or covertly. Sometimes just not necessarily purposely, but I felt that way. And when I started dating, I was always looking for people to fulfill that void, fulfill that emptiness inside me. I feel rejected. So when I find a guy that loves me and I love them, it's just okay, this is really important to me. This matters so much to me. And repeatedly in my life, it brung the adversary and it brung so many obstacles. And I just want to bring up real quick that story about the woman at the well, where it was okay, this woman was at the well and Jesus was around there, and he would ask the lady to get him a drink of water, and she was basically who are you talking to? Who are you talking to ask me to get you some water? And then he told the lady look, if you knew who I was, you'd be asking me for a drink of water because I could give you water that you never thirst again. And then he pointed out to this lady things in her life, basically was okay, well, where's your husband at? And she was I don't have one. And he was yeah, you said correctly, you spoke right, but you've been through a couple men, and none of you don't have no husband, right? And I'm bringing that story up because when he said, I'll give you a water that you won't thirst again, that really stuck out to me. When I was in the world, and even when I wasn't in the world, I always felt this void, because I had been rejected, because I felt I was lacking love. I always felt this void of needing someone to love me. And all these obstacles came through my life because the enemy will take what you feel you need. If you don't let God fill that void, if you don't let God fill up that void inside of you and give you that water that you never thirst again, then you'll go to the world, or you'll go out looking for someone to fill it. It's just your fleshly desire, because it's a void, it's a lack, and you feel you need to fill it. Just if you haven't drank water all day and then you start feeling thirsty, it's okay, I need to drink something. I need some water. I need some juice. I need something because my body is feeling depleted. I need this. That's just how it is, spiritually. When you have these voids or you have these emptiness inside you, then you're looking for someone to fill it. And I don't want to sound redundant, because I always do. I often repeat myself, and I don't know why I talk like that, but I just do. Maybe because the type of work I do, I feel I got to repeat myself. I don't know. It is what it is. But the thing is, it's I went through all these obstacles, and I'm going to get real specific, right? There's so many times that I can point out where I had to stop and start over again. Yes, people were doing witchcraft, not even just the people I was dating, but people, you know, doing, I told my story, testimony, you can go watch it. I talked about how I became aware of the spiritual realm, that one of my best friends was actually a witch. All these things like that in the past, of course. Not anyone I associate with now. But all these other factors were involved in it. But like the real hurt, the real pain, the real losing everything, the real having to start over from scratch came from me letting in, you know, people that I thought were for me, people that I loved, people that I considered, you know, this is the person, this is my dude, right? And I love them, and I'm gonna do everything. It happened repeatedly over and over again. So, like I'm telling you, it happened repeatedly over and over again. There, I lost, and it happened more than once the same exact way. I'm gonna be specific, right? So there's this one person I don't even like talking like this, but somebody I dated like when I was like 16 years old, and I was with him for a while. I love this person. We were in the world. I was in the world. I wasn't serving God. I believed in God. I knew who he was. I would call on him when I needed him, but ultimately my life had nothing to do with serving the Lord. So what happened was, like, I would start, you know, progressing in life, getting a job, getting a good job, getting a car, you know, things coming up for me, especially because I was really young then too. And like, it would be something that would happen between me and this person or with this person involved, and I would lose everything. And it happened like that over and over and over again. So I told this story in the past about like dating this one person, and he was in the streets or whatever. And, you know, he got into something. You can go watch my old testimony if you really want like full description, because I'm not going to tell the whole story because I don't even care to. But like, he was in the streets, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna follow him. I'm gonna be that ride or die person or whatever. And he got into something and was like facing all these charges or whatever the case was, and we decided to go on the run. It sounds so silly now. We decided to go on the run, right? And I left my job, and I was working at this hospital at the time, and it was a good job, like good job, especially at the age that I was getting paid good down there in Florida. I left this job. I left my house because I was staying by myself at that time, and I went on the run with this person, leaving everything behind. So eventually they were kind of like, okay, I feel like I want to go back and just face the music, right? We went back, and I'm literally without a job. On the way back to driving back to Florida from where we went on the run to, I totaled my vehicle, totaled it. So I'm back in Florida, no car, no job, in a house, and I don't know I'm going to pay the rent, right? I lost everything. I had to start all over again, all over with finding a job, all over with finding a way to pay my rent, all over with getting another car, like literally all over again. And of course, God put me through. He made a way. He did that, but it wasn't easy. It was hard. But I'm just saying, this person was acting as an adversary, and I did not serve the Lord then. So I was a full participant, right? But then, you know, further on, somebody else I was talking to beating me, right? Beating me. He crashed my car, right? Twice. This was so crazy. He crashed it twice in like 2 weeks. Crashed it once on I-95 down in Florida. And then again, did something to damage it, kicked the window out and all that stuff, was beating me. I had a good job then in the hospital. I had just got a new car. And then I end up, this car is like basically destroyed. And then like completely, eventually I didn't have that car anymore. Lost the place I was staying at because I moved from like my mom's house to go be with this person, only to like get kicked out of there. And I'm living in my car, living in hotels with no place to go. Second time, same exact thing. Lost a car, lost a job, right? Lost everything. Had to start over from completely scratch from the beginning, right? And then again it happened, right? Again it happened when I moved to Georgia. I never even really told, I don't think I told this story, and a lot of people don't know, like even family members, I never even brung it up so they knew what happened. But once again, like I was staying at my dad's house, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna leave because, you know, stuff's not going the way I want it here. So I'm like, I left without a trace, just hopped up one day, moved everything out when he wasn't home, when no one was home, and was just like, okay, I'm gonna figure it out and be on my own, right? Left, eventually got like this little rinky-dink car, and then not long after it, talking to somebody, I end up completely, I ran into a deer and totaled the car. Ran into the deer, could have died type, totaled it, and totaled the car. And then shortly after that, I lost a job. Right? That's third time, right? Lost a job, lost the car. And it was because, of course, I was, you know, doing things I had no business doing, but I gave place to the enemy. I opened the door. I opened the door to the enemy by dealing with people who weren't following God. They were not submitted to God. They had no desire to do the will of the Lord. So, of course, the enemy's can operate through people like that to destroy people who God actually has a purpose for. And if God has a purpose and gifts for each and every one of us, but people who just completely have no desire to walk in that, you know, the enemy will use them in that period of time when they don't want to serve God, or they don't want to walk in God's calling, right? If you remember the story of Jonah, Jonah ran from God. He didn't want to do what God wanted him to do. And he goes on that boat, and everyone on the boat is like about to be destroyed. And they point him out like, hey, you're the reason we're going through this. Right? So that's what happens when you run from God. It's just like things don't go well. But anyway, I don't even know why I had to bring that up. But then it happened again. As I brought up the story in my, you know, Where Have I Been video, talking about when I got that DUI. I didn't fully lose that car right then, but I didn't have a way of transportation because I didn't have a license to drive. And, you know, I ended up losing a job, car. Had to start over from the beginning. That's the fourth time, right? The fourth time. So I'm just making this video really to remind like women, like, you have to be careful who you let into your life. You have to be careful to, and even this last time, like I just lost that other car that I was talking about in that other video. And there's other factors to it, but it's always like the enemy will use the adversary. When you have people in your life who is not submitted to God, whether you're serving God or you're not. If you're serving God, which a few of these times, probably the last 2 times, I definitely believed in God. I started, you know, getting into things I had no business getting into, or entertaining people who have no desire to do the will of God. And then things befell me. But it always happened the same way, because that was like my weakness. That was like my void. Like desiring for someone to love me, or desiring for someone to like be in my life, because I grew up feeling rejected. I grew up feeling like I was missing that. And the enemy will, if you don't allow God to come fill that void, the enemy will send you a counterfeit, or send you something looking like, okay, this is it. This is what I've been praying for. This is what I've been wanting, in order just to let the adversary get in so things can befall you. And I'm talking about it always happened the same way. It's always the same attack. But now that I know the adversary, that I know the package the enemy's going to send the adversary in, of course he'll find other ways. Of course he'll try, and you know, if you don't go that way, if you don't fall for it, he'll find another trick. But I feel like I've grown spiritually to understand and know, like, okay, look, you know, not no more. Like I can't do it anymore. I don't have time. I don't want to do it. I don't agree. I can't do it. But yeah, I guess this is just for the women. Like, you know, just be careful. Sorry, my phone is playing something. All right. Until next time, I card you know. Bye.